welcome back to Riding the Pine. This is our review of game, what are we at? 37 of the 2020-21 Chicago Blackhawks season. Tonight, the Blackhawks defeated the Carolina Hurricanes by a score of 2-1. But before we get to the game review, if you could do me a really big favor and hit that like button down below, it helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. And also subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. That helps us out a lot as well. And hit that notifications bell so you know when we upload, we come looking for you. You don't have to come looking for us. You will know exactly when we upload our videos. And with that, I will throw it over to Joe. Joe, how are you doing tonight? Hawks win tonight.
Yeah, it was hey, credit Kevin Lankinen, and what another outstanding performance from him. The power play Strome, getting his after his baby girl was born, as they were saying on Twitter, it's the dad's strength. So congrats to him. And yeah, hey, it wasn't pretty, but it's a win, and it was a must win that we really needed, especially with what happened tonight between Dallas and Nashville.
Yeah, so for those that are watching the standings, Nashville defeated Dallas in overtime. So Nashville kept pace with the Hawks. And unfortunately, Dallas also picks up a point in one of those dreaded 3-point matchups. So that obviously is irritating. Um, but at least the Hawks kept pace. They're going to have to with the schedule that they have coming up. Um, Overall, though, tonight, like my initial thoughts, Lankinen obviously should have been the first star. I think he was given the second by the box scores. But yeah, ugly again, slow to start again. That's at least 3 games in a row now. They've been flat to start the game. It could have been ugly. I think they were outshot 9-2 at one point. And I think that was in like the first 6 minutes or so. It was very ugly. Kevin Lankinen, too, didn't look very good in those about the first 7 to 8 minutes, I guess I'd say. He looked like he was anxious. He was out of position a lot, giving up uncharacteristic rebounds, kind of sliding all over the place in his crease. Luckily, he put a stop to that, so that was nice to see. But yeah, he's usually real calm and poised and confident in net, so that was a little concerning. I don't know if it was just the flurry of shots and pressure that Carolina was throwing at him, or what it was, but he definitely looked a little shook to start the game. Obviously, again, he settled down. But I think, I tweeted it out from our account. I think the big difference tonight was the Hawks scored on the power play. The Hawks just do not score 5-on-5. So if they don't score on the power play, it's most likely that they're going to lose the game. Um, and that's something that's got to be rectified. We talked about or at least I tweeted out earlier. The Hawks are 16th entering tonight with goals scored per game. And they've played more games than most of those teams ahead of them and even the next closest few behind them. Um, and, usually 16 teams make the playoffs, and the Hawks are right on the bubble of the playoffs right now. So that kind of makes sense where they are with relation to their goal scoring. And I think that's the story. I mean, if you can't score, you're going to have problems. And they've had trouble. I mean, they've scored, I think it was told to me they've scored 3 goals 3 times in their last 10 games. That's just unacceptable. I was
Right.
telling Joe beforehand, the goals against average for a goalie that's considered good is usually in the 2.3 to 2.5 mark um, for an above average to a good goalie in the NHL. And so if you're not scoring 2.5 to preferably about 3 goals a game every game, you're not going to win many games. You're going to kind of be a middling team, which that's right where we find ourselves. So I don't think there's any doubt that the offense is the problem, especially at 5-on-5. It's just other than Kane and DeBrincat, it's anemic, and what's even more frustrating, I think, is it was Kane and DeBrincat that scored on the power play tonight. So they're kind of the two-men wrecking crew. Everybody else is struggling.
Right outside, even yes, I know Suter's what he's got 10 or 11 goals.
Yeah. So I think Suter's one behind. I think Kubalik has 12. I think Suter has 11, and then I think
Okay.
Yanmark has 10. I think. So that's nice that it's spread out that way. The problem is they all of them are kind of streaky, right? So Kubalik hasn't scored in what, at least 4 games now. Suter has been scoring, didn't tonight, and he didn't the previous night, but he did have 2 assists, so that was nice. But um, they've got to get somebody that can score at like DeBrincat's pace, not necessarily at DeBrincat's, but like somebody that should either they need to pick up, players that can score more consistently, or they need to find another like DeBrincat, something between Kane and DeBrincat type player. Not necessarily, I think Kane has 13 goals, 14, something like that, and DeBrincat's at 19 now. And that's a story that I was hard on DeBrincat coming into this season because he was downright awful last year. He is so much better of a player this year between his offense uptick going back to normal, but also his defensive improvements from becoming more of a dependable in his own end type of player. And I mean, he's 2 goals away from being tied for second in the Maurice Rocket Richard Trophy for the goal scoring lead. And I believe he's 4 away from I think Matthews has the lead right now with 23, I think, unless he scored tonight. But yeah, uh, so lots of credit to DeBrincat and what he's been doing this year, especially, he missed a whole week with COVID on top of it. So very impressive season for 12 in red this season. Um, Back to the defense tonight. Kalynuk, I guess one of our darlings, or at least my darlings that I've been defending all year, got his second game of the season. And what'd you think of him tonight?
Yeah, no, I thought Kalanick played well, and he was noticeable out there. So I like you said, I think he'll stay. I think he stays in the lineup at least. I don't see any reason to take him out. So, um, but yeah, no, I liked what I saw from him.
Yeah, I thought he was steady, I guess is a good word.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, their goal was redirected off of him. I don't really blame him for that. Um, if it wasn't for Lankinen in the first period, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Um, but yeah, I thought he was solid. I thought Boquist had a good game. Boquist consistency, I think, is becoming a thing with him. Like he's going on, 2 to 3 good games in a row, and then he has a bad game, or maybe 2 bad games in a row. And I get it. He's a young player. I still would like to see a little bit more consistency. Uh, but yeah, other than that, I thought the defense was, for the most part, pretty good. Um, but I definitely wanted to mention those 2 guys in particular. Thought they had pretty good games. And then Dylan Strome getting his first goal since he became a dad, as you mentioned. So congrats to him on becoming a dad and getting on the scoreboard. I know it's been kind of a tough. Last year was tough for him, and I think you could probably say this year's been pretty tough for him too, with missing a month out of the season. He's had a couple tough years, but so nice to see him get a goal. Also on that goal, Kirby Doc got his first point of the season. Nice to see. Kirby Doc again. I believe it was in the first period. Once again, had it just flat out making their defenders look like chumps, carrying the puck into the offensive zone. That's stuff that the Hawks need more of. Those big bodied guys that can carry the puck into the offensive uh, zone at will. That the defense just can't. They can't do anything. And the bigger Kirby gets in terms of strength, the better he's going to be at that. I don't know. Everybody's focused on him needing to score. He's not a scorer. I mean, if he scores, that's great. But he's like Taves in a lot of ways. He's a big guy who can skate the puck in, and make plays. He's not going to score 40 goals, 30 goals a year. That's not his forte, if you will. So I think we need to stop putting that pressure on him. I don't think that's necessary. Just having him do what he's doing is good enough. Uh, yeah. So, what do you have any comments on Strom or Doc or anything
Well,
offensively?
no, and I think we got to, like I said with Kirby, it's going to take him some time to really get himself reacclimated into game shape, if you will. Um, I mean, obviously, what was his? Did we get the stats on his face-off percentage tonight?
Yes. So it had him at 0%. So I don't know if he just didn't win a single face-off uh, tonight. But I know Strom was very good at the face-off circle, so I assume those were just a limited role for Strom, and he got lucky. But yeah, I don't know why Doc is at 0. At least that's what I'm seeing on NHL.com. They have him at 0%, but the Hawks in general got killed.
Yeah,
So
well, yeah, that's so, and then, but yeah, and then with Strom, I mean, yeah, I think hopefully now, maybe getting the goal kind of spark him a little bit, um, and kind of get him on a little bit of a points tear here going forward. So, I mean, I just hope that, with Doc, I mean, like I said, it's going to take a little time, and I think we got to be patient with him. But hopefully this, slowly but surely he'll kind of get regain his form.
yeah, hopefully. I think with consistent playing time and also getting time more with the better players, the more skilled players. So if he sticks with Doc and Yanmark too, but I do think Yanmark's probably on his way out at this point. Um, no matter
As
what.
far as a trade.
Yeah, probably. I think if you're Bowman, you got to add as much assets as you can because you're not in a position to, I mean, he's on an expiring contract. If you really like him, you can, re-sign him in the offseason, most likely. Um, so why not move him for a pick, a second round pick? I think that's what Friedman thought the going rate for a player like him would be. And then, you can maybe get a third or a fourth for Soderberg. And I think, that kind of brings us into what I was going to move into next, which was the Hawks signed BC forward Mike Hardman today to a 2-year contract. It starts this season, so it will burn the first year of his contract. He's already in the NHL with the taxi squad. I believe he is 6'3". So he is a pretty big player. He was Second on the team with Boston College with 10 goals scored, and third in points with 19 this season. Um, I'd expect him to probably get a look as we get past the trade deadline and players are moved. Again, he's 6'2", 205 pounds is what he's listed at. Um, so he looks like kind of a grinder player with a big body that can come in and help with some of their size. I wouldn't expect much out of him, to be honest. Um, I know there are some people that are expecting him to replace Janmark and Soderberg, and while he may do that in the lineup because of personnel, uh, I don't expect him to be as good as they are, I guess is the way to put it. I don't think fans appreciate because I think they get caught up in stats. And while Janmark's had a great season, uh, what they do away from the stat sheet is something that's made a huge improvement for the Hawks this year. And quite frankly, Lankinen and net has been a huge improvement over Crawford from last season. So you're seeing better goaltending and a much better defensive acting forward group, which has allowed them to kind of ease in some of these rookie defensemen to where it wouldn't be as big of a disaster potentially. Um, so those, like I said, I would have, if I thought this team was a playoff team, those are two guys I'd probably try to keep around. Um, but I mean, the reality is we, at least maybe even myself, kind of got carried away with the little run that they went on. And look, they don't have the offense necessary to compete with these good teams. I mean, the two games they won against Florida and tonight, they should have lost all three of them. The only reason they won was because of their power play and their goaltending. All three were goaltending wins. And, you know, that's a great asset to have. The Hawks got their goalie. They don't have to go look and pay a lot of money to a goalie. That's a great thing to have. But you got to be able to score. And they just, like I said, they
Right,
don't.
all year they just haven't been able to put up consistent, you
Well,
know,
yeah, it's, like I
four
said,
to
if you,
5 goal game. I mean, not to say that's got to be on the reg, but at
yeah,
least
no, I mean, they just need to average about 3.
right.
So they need to score, I think they were about 2.8 entering the game, and those numbers are falling because they only scored 2 again tonight. So they're probably somewhere in the 2.7 range now. Um, but yeah, you can't go like this. Like I said at the top of the show, they did not score on the power play against Nashville. They did tonight. That was the difference in the game. If they don't score on the power play, it's a 1-1 game, and this probably goes to overtime, and they probably lose. They get a point, sure. That's Lankinen's point. Um, just that's it is what it is. And then if you look back at the Nashville series, where they lost 3-2 on Sunday, so you get a power play goal, you go to overtime, you get at least a point, you maintain your lead in the division. Same thing on Saturday. So, if you get a goal, it's a different game. Uh, it's frustrating, but and the thing is I'm not sure if they can get that scorer in the draft where they're going to be drafting. That's the rub. Maybe they can get it next year, in 2022, but with this draft class, it's going to be a little iffy. And we don't know what Reichel's going to do. I expect, like I said, Reichel's going to be signed, and he'll probably be over here next season. So maybe he's the guy. but we don't know yet. So
right? And who knows if he starts up at the big league level or if they're going to start him in Rockford and then bring him up. I don't know.
yeah, I think he'll probably make the team. But
Okay.
again, anything's possible. But um, yeah, uh, yeah. I mean, Lankinen, like I said, shaky to start. Finished strong. I think it was at a 969 save percentage, 31 saves on 32 shots. Um, and give the Hawks defense credit. They I don't think they allowed a shot on the penalty they took that was on Zadorov for tripping. Um, according to this anyway, it says they had 30 shots at even strength, or 31. One of them went in. They got one shot off on the Hawks power plays, and then shorthanded, they had none against Lankinen. So good on the PK,
Yeah.
because I believe the Hurricanes had the top power play entering the game.
Yeah. I think they're a 30% conversion rate. I think that's what I saw.
Yeah, so props to them. Looking at the time of ice figures, about usual. Kalanick, obviously being his second game, got more ice time than he did in the first. I believe, if I recall, his first game was actually that game that Murphy got kicked out, if I recall. So that's good. Boquist, yeah, everybody's about similar on defense. Kubalik's minutes dropped about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. That's interesting. Uh, Doc's minutes dropped a lot. A lot. Doc's minutes went down 8 minutes.
Mhm. Is
Uh,
that just a precautionary thing, or was that maybe a message from the turnover from yesterday or from the day before, I should say?
I think that might be the lines, and just trying to get something that works and to balance it out more.
Mm-hmm.
DeBrincat, 18 minutes, not a lot, but yeah, Camp's minutes went up, so Camp ate up a lot of the time. That's just, you can't. I don't like seeing that. Camp almost 16 minutes tonight. That's mm-mm. Nope. Carpenter
Well, and
got
I know
some.
we keep talking about it's like, yeah, when they got to get him off that second line, but I don't know why they're not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty bad when Mark Lazarus is calling you out, and he's even late to the train. But once he's on it, that's pretty bad. I think we have, the Hawks Talk Pod has, for Feathers has. I think every legitimate Hawks podcast that I'm at least aware of has said to get him off the second line. At least what I've seen on Twitter. That's how if I see stuff retweeted, usually that means, if it's from one of those podcasts, that's how I don't listen to anybody else's podcast, if you're wondering. But other than the actual beat reporters, I listen to those. But yeah, everybody and their mother knows he doesn't work there. And as Mark Lazarus said, the same thing I've been saying, it's nothing against Camp. It's just not where he belongs. It's not what he's good at. It's like, why are you playing players at something they're not good at? The only thing I can think of is that Jeremy knows the team's not scoring. So rather than trying to manufacture offense, he's just trying to play a defensive style game. You know, I maybe I would have been okay with that if Doc wasn't back, But with Doc back, I don't think there's any reason he should be playing on the third line. The way he's played the last two games, I think he's healthy, or at least healthy enough that he can play in the top six. He's shown, both games he's cut up the middle of the ice, carried the puck in, um, looked very good. Tonight picked up an assist on that Dylan Strome goal. Had two shots on goal, two block shots even. um, like I said, big minutes cut, but I I'm fine with him getting back up in that 17, 18-minute mark to give him more work. But what are you gonna do? I mean, they're gonna Colleton's gonna do what he wants, I guess.
Right.
That's
So,
like the other night, the guy Colleton never uses his timeouts, and then with 0.7 seconds left, he's gonna use his timeout. It's just like, dude, you're a weird dude, man.
well, and I could see, and I know a lot of people were like, well, why didn't he use it, when there was 38 seconds left the other night against Nashville? But it was like, I could see why he didn't, because Nashville was gassed after, I think it was Arvidsson that iced the puck. So, you don't want to take a timeout to, get their guys rested too. And, whereas if they're tired, you got a little bit better of an opportunity. So I could understand why he didn't take it, when there was 38 seconds left. But yeah, I mean, I agree, using it at 0.7, there's really no sense.
Yeah, you're gonna lose half of that 0.7 just by the puck dropping. I
Right.
mean, you're
Right.
and then what was hilarious is the play that they drew up was to get it to Kane, and I'm like, there's not enough time. The
Yeah.
center's got to shoot. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. That's two things I think we know about Colleton, right? Going, seems like doesn't like to use the timeout, and he doesn't like to
Replace his
pull a
goal.
goaltender when he's struggling.
Yeah. Uh, he had an interesting comment. I told Joe. So I saw this on Twitter. So I guess Rod Brindamore said that was a nasty game or some garbage game or something like that. And I guess Colleton said, "Well, what is? We don't care if they're pretty. As we're not trying to win a beauty contest or something. As long as we get a win, they can worry about the aesthetics." I thought that was pretty good coming from Colleton, but yeah, I wish Colleton would show more emotion or something because I mean, like tonight, right after that first 5 minutes or so, like Eddie said it on the broadcast, like somebody's got to yell or do something on that bench to wake the hell up.
Right.
Let's get going. Like, and Foley's like, yeah, this is the third game in a row. They've come out flat.
And
And
especially outside of that 5 minutes, in the second period where they got the two goals, you
yeah,
know.
I mean,
So
that's that's the team. I mean, like, I don't know really how to what to do. I don't know if a fiery coach makes a difference. Obviously, we've talked about Camp getting moved, but I mean, just there. I mean, there is a point to where, I think it was Erica. I think her Twitter handle is like Erica's SBSB or something, which is like something to do with the Backstreet Boys. I think I'm not entirely sure, but she's always on Chicago sports Twitter, and she had made the comment to somebody that it's not Colleton's fault that they're losing, and I kind of, in a way, I disagree in some aspects because when there's no effort, that's a problem. But I don't necessarily disagree, and that's the point that she was making, which was there's not the personnel just isn't there. Like you can't force this team to do stuff that it's not capable of doing. Um, and I don't think some Hawks fans just don't realize that. And they'll look at stats that say, "Oh, The Blackhawks are the 10th worst team in the league in terms of goals against. So either your goaltending is bad or your defense is bad. That's what the conclusion they jump to. And it's like, no. You have to look at the whole picture. How many shots are the Hawks giving up a game? How many shots are going, shot attempts and then actual shots that are on goal? What's their puck possession game? And more often than not, the other team's getting probably somewhere between 65 to 70% of the puck possession in the game at 5-on-5. And that's how you get these lopsided shot differentials. And, you know, you can't score if you're not. Forget about having the offensive skill, right? You're not going to score in your own end.
Right.
Like, you got to be able to get to the offensive zone first. Then you got to have the people that can put the puck in the net. And the Hawks right now, I don't think have either. They sure as hell aren't getting into the offensive zone enough. And that's, I think, one of my issues with Colleton, because I know he said at the end, one of his quotes was somewhere along the lines of, yeah, well, we got a lot of good defense. We played good defense, limit them to their chances after the first period, got good saves when we needed them. And of course, we would have liked to have generated more offensive chances. And it's like, well, no, duh. Like, can you just come out and say your offense sucks, that it needs to be better? Like, why? I
Well,
don't
I
know
think
why.
they know that. They have to know that. And it's, when you're only getting production from really what, not even a handful probably of guys as in the scoring department. I mean, yeah, and it's like, teams eventually are gonna, have to realize, like, hey, if we shut down, Kane and DeBrincat, it's very unlikely the Hawks are gonna get by and win the game. So,
Well,
you
that's
know,
something else that we haven't really talked about, because we talk a lot about like those two scoring, but they also pass a lot. So if you like look at all the goals they're involved in where they're not the ones scoring, whether it's Kubalik, whether it's Suter, whether it's Strome, whoever it may be, Boquist, whoever's the one putting the puck in the net, chances are Kane or DeBrincat's name is going to be one of the assists. So if you remove those two, this team is in dire straits. This team is probably where Buffalo is, and that's not good. And maybe they're better than Buffalo just because they have Lankinen. But even at that point, I don't know. Like, it would be scary to think if they didn't have those two players, how awful this team would be. Because more than likely their power play, those are two key parts of their power play too. So the power play probably drops. The 5-on-5 obviously is going to drop. And
not that
yeah,
five on five could get much worse, it seems like.
yeah,
But
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's bad now. Just imagine when it would be without those two.
right.
So they've got to do something. Like, I understand they need to probably take a couple defensemen in the draft, but they've got to start stockpiling forwards to find something that can start generating them some offense, because this is not going to work long term. It's the one, and that's, I think, maybe that's a benefit to Bowman. Maybe, like, look, Stan, we've got a great young goalie. We've got really good defensive prospects. We've still got Patrick Kane. We've got Alex DeBrincat, who looks like the heir to Patrick Kane. We've got Kirby Doc, which looks like potentially the heir to Jonathan Taves. We got a lot of good young, uh, supporting cast, but we still need like that Marion Hossa type guy or that Patrick Sharp. We're missing one of those guys to come in here and really set the offense on fire. And maybe that helps them. I mean, you know, And look, it is different than just going out and getting Marian Hossa. Uh, they don't have the money for that because they've got so many guys on injured reserve. And they're going to have to sign all their rookies eventually. So if it was if the Hawks didn't have Seabrook on IR and Taves on IR and they had all this money and cap space, then sure. Then I would say go get Taylor Hall. You can afford him and you can lock him up. Go get, some other prime Patrick Laine's. They're talking about Patrick Laine being traded again because Columbus seems to be dwindling and, he's on a short-term deal. So they may blow it up down there. I'm not a big fan of Laine, but you know, he is a goal scorer. It's what you need. So if they had the cap space and didn't have to sign all these young horses they have, I'd be all for it. But they're not in that position like they were 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So they've got to find it. They got to find that Marian Hossa type player in the draft. And maybe they already have, maybe it's Reichel, but we don't know. We're not going to know for probably at least a year for sure, 2 years most likely. Um, and yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We're kind of middle of the road, which kind of hurts because you're probably not going to get that premier talent that's at the bottom of the barrel. That's why I think this team should try to look at trying to take a step back. How do they get worse before they get better, kind of thing. That's why I think you could see potentially 2 out of their current veteran defensemen moved. One of them to Seattle, the other either walks with Zadorov or they trade Zadorov's rights to somebody because they've got the D prospects and you just go even further with your youth. But who knows? I mean, even if Jonathan Taves was on this team, maybe that changes it enough that it matters. But I don't know. I at some points you got to get a good young stud that can score. And it's not that's not Doc. That's not his style. Uh People that are trying to make him into that, like you got to learn you can't turn players into something they're not. That's like what women do with husbands and boyfriends. They try to, well, we can change them. No, you're not. It's not going to happen. Kirby Doc's not magically going to turn into Alex Ovechkin. It's not going to happen. What he will do is create plays for you for those Alex Ovechkin types to score. And occasionally he'll do like that Jonathan Taves highlight against Colorado we see all the time where he skates in. It was his second goal that they keep calling his first goal for some odd reason.
I think, yeah.
I, it's his first goal in the NHL. No, it's not.
But well, and then I guess going now to what is it Thursday? Is their next
Yeah,
game?
it's Thursday, April Fool's Day.
Yeah. Do you think you stick with Lankinen again?
Yep, I think you have to. Look, so Lankinen's last 4 games, he's got 2 games where he gave up one goal against and a shutout, and then he had the blow up game against the Preds, which was what 3?
Yeah,
It
I
was
think
3-1, I think that game. What was the first game against Florida? Was that 3-1 they won? The Hawks?
Was it 3-1? I think it was. Let me see.
I think they got an empty netter. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe it's 2-1.
It was 3-2.
3-2. Okay. So he's given up. Okay. So he's given up 1 goal tonight, 3 to Nashville, nothing to Florida, and then 2 to Florida. To me, I mean, and the amount of shots that Florida was peppering him with. The guy is your guy, and you need to win. So
And that's what it's kind of. And I'm looking at actually the games here, and in our last what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. I mean, it's also a credit to the defense and the goaltending because we haven't given up more than 3 goals, which is pretty good as far as being able to win games.
yeah, I mean that's just it, man. Like you got to score.
Right. Right. If
Like
we would, if we were scoring, on an average of 3 and giving up on an average of 3, I mean, I'd say we'd be about even as far as where we were. But I mean, I feel like if you score 3 versus, when you're giving up on, 3 or less, you're going to win more games than you lose, or at least at the very least get games to, overtimes or shootouts and
well, like I
gain
said,
points.
if you're scoring 3 goals a game, that means you have the puck more
Right.
because you've had to generate that offense. So that means the other team has not been in your end. So that flips it's the teeter totter back from the playground. They still have those anymore?
Yeah. Yeah. They're still around.
Okay. So that's the idea, right? It flips the board. And that changes everything because then, you're not giving up the 3 goals a game. You're giving up the 2 goals a game, but you're scoring 3. So you're winning. That's all it is, folks. I mean, it's that simple. This isn't like a complicated thing. It's like I think there was a comedian or something once that said, you listen to back with like Madden from, the NFL or any of these guys, these sports broadcasters that get all elaborate on, the game matchup and so and so's got to do this if this team's going to win and they got to make this play and do this and these are the keys to the game as they do it or what is it? The White Sox do the picks to click and all that kind of crap. Well, here's the reality, Jack. The team that scores the most wins the game. Like that's the name of the game in any sport. The team that gets the most points wins. Like that's the goal. So, if you can't get points on the scoreboard, you're not going to win. That's always the old adage, right? Cuz people will go, the Bears have been talking about, well, defense wins championships. Well, what have the Bears been trying to do for the last 30 fucking years? Find a quarterback
Right.
because they can't score.
So, well, yeah, exactly. You got to play. Obviously, yeah, defense is a key, but yeah, you've got to score too. So, and I hope like I said, either at this deadline, you either try to get some picks to be able to find those kind of offensive, not to say 30 goal scorers, but at least some offensive weapons that can create opportunities. So, um, we'll see what happens. I mean, like I said, it's going to be a telling couple of weeks here before the deadline. So
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of trades, if they're going to happen just because of COVID, I think they'll happen before the deadline. So,
oh yeah, well if the guys are getting traded to Canadian teams or as far as the quarantine protocols, yeah.
yeah, I think we could see action this weekend, probably, possibly. But yeah, we'll see. As far as Thursday goes, um, like we said, we figure Lankinen starts. You think Kalnick stays in, or do you think they get Mitchell in?
I mean, I'd like to see Mitchell and Kalanick in there, but if I had to choose one, I'd choose Mitchell just because of how well he's played this year. But if Kalanick, if they feel Kalanick's the best choice, then go with it. So
Yeah, I'd be curious as to what they do. Since they won tonight, I wonder if maybe they just stick with the roster. But we'll see. Uh, I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those. Maybe roll with it until you lose, kind of thing. Um, Kalanick obviously this is only his second game, and he hasn't played in the NHL almost a month because his first game was at the beginning of the month. So I think, right, or was it the end of February?
Yeah, I think they said Kalina played tonight for the first time in like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
So
I think it was around the first of the month, against Tampa, if I remember correctly. But yes, so I'd be curious to see what he looks like with consistent playing time too. So yeah, uh, again, it probably doesn't make much big of a difference because I mean they played Kalanick 12 minutes tonight. That's basically what they've been giving Mitchell and Bodan. So whoever it is, um, it probably won't make much difference. But yeah, another big game coming up. You know, we said the Hawks probably have to win 3 out of these 5 games against the Hurricanes if they're going to make the playoffs. They've won one. They can put themselves in a nice spot to do that if they can pick up another win here Thursday evening. And that'll definitely be big if Dallas can pull out the 2 points against the Predators, because the Hawks could have a 4-point turnaround if they can get a, Nashville loss and them have a victory over the Hurricanes again, and then they got the opportunity against the Preds again for revenge on Saturday. So big games coming up here. Pretty much every game going on at this point forward is going to be huge. And guess what, folks? Less than 20 games left in the season.
right, crazy.
We're coming into the home stretch.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So buckle up, kids. It's either going to get really good or really bad, I feel like. I don't think there's going to be a middle ground.
no,
So
I was gonna say it's this next week of hockey is the Hawks' biggest of the season to this point. So I mean they're all big games, but
well,
this
hopefully the Preds cool off a little bit because they've won their last 6 games, so they're due
yeah
to lose.
yeah at least we hope so.
Yeah. But with that, everybody, that's going to wrap up this review of Game 37. Again, the Hawks beat the Carolina Hurricanes by a score of 2-1. Alex DeBrincat and Dylan Strome were the goal scorers. Kevin Lankinen stopped. What was it? What did I say? 31 out of 32 saves, 969 save percentage. Another stellar performance from him. And until next time, everybody, continue to wear your masks, stay safe, do whatever you need to do to stay healthy. And we will see you Friday morning with our review of Thursday night's game. So let's go, Hawks.
Yeah, go Hawks, everybody. Thanks again.